Hi, this is Lisa Irons. Today I'm going to be talking to you about vaccination in cattle. Now, I know a big topic in the news is animal welfare, especially when it comes to livestock and farm animals. As a producer, this is a big concern for me, especially since I've been raising beef cattle for over 20 years, and I've owned my own animals for about 15 years now. When I graduate from Iowa State in December, I will graduate with a degree in animal science, so basically I'll have a degree in animal care. Consumers want to know where their food comes from and that it's cared for properly, and as a producer it's my job to relay this knowledge to the consumer so they know that animals in fact are cared for regardless of what certain activist groups would like to say. I'm going to talk to you about how, when, and why vaccines are administered, and hopefully by the end of this you'll be educated as to how farmers and ranchers better care for their cattle through vaccination programs. So, vaccinations are administered throughout an animal's life. There are about 4 periods of time that it's most crucial to vaccinate an animal. First of all, you want to vaccinate them at birth. When calves are born, they have a vulnerable immune system since it's fairly undeveloped, even though they receive some passive immunity from their dams. One of the vaccines that we give our calves at birth is called Calf Guard. It is manufactured by Zoetis, formerly Pfizer. It is 2 parts. The vaccine itself is a powder, and then there's a sterile diluent, which is basically saline water. You have to use a syringe and take the saline water and mix it in with the powder to create the vaccine, which it's an oral vaccine, which I will explain later. So we give them to them in the mouth. Another one that we give them at birth is called bovine equalizer. This is also given orally. So both of those help protect against scourge, which is a big concern in baby calves. Scourge is basically really bad diarrhea that can lead to dehydration and eventually death if it's not treated. Another crucial point in the vaccination program would be weaning. This is a high-stress time, and as we all know, when you're stressed, your immune system is weakened. So before calves are weaned, they are given another round of vaccination, such as Enforce 3. This one is given nasally. I'll explain that later as well. That basically helps prevent against respiratory disease, basically flu, pneumonia, etc. From then on out, steers usually don't get much more vaccination than that. Heifers and cows and bulls are vaccinated during breeding season. There are a bunch of diseases out there that can cause damage to various the male and female reproductive systems, which can in turn affect conception rates and even harm the fetus and or the dam. Such a disease is the bangs, which can cause abortion in females. Heifers are given this when they're about a year old and ready to breed for the first time. They receive a metal clip in their ear, since this is a really big concern. That way they're able to be identified that they have in fact received this vaccination. It's more of a concern out west, where domesticated cattle can more frequently come in contact with unvaccinated populations such as deer, elk, and bison. And along with breeding season, females, heifers, and mature cows are vaccinated during pregnancy for similar reasons. Not only does it help the dam stay healthy, but the dam then in turn, like I said, with passive immunity, she will pass those antibodies from her to her baby and help keep her baby healthy. So basically, a healthy mom equals a healthy baby. So I kind of combined my first and second points there, the when and the why, since they go hand in hand. Now that I've explained that, you're probably curious as to how we give their vaccinations. So as I mentioned earlier, there are a few different types of methods to give vaccinations. When it comes to administration, there's 5 different types. IM, which stands for intramuscular, sub-Q, which stands for subcutaneous, IV, which stands for intravenous, oral, and then nasal. The two first ones that I showed you that we give during birth, those are both oral, so they are given into the mouth and I swallow it, and the immunity is given to them through that. A lot of vaccinations are given IM, which is in the muscle, so basically like your average like flu vaccine and polio, etc. This would be an example of a syringe that we would use. This would be the size of ones that we would use for the bovine equalizer, like I talked about. Vaccine dosage varies on the type. It can be anywhere from 1 milliliter, like the calf guard that I showed you, up to 20 milliliters, which would be the bovine equalizer. For something of the like the bovine equalizer, you're going to want to use a larger syringe like this one. This is a 35 milliliter, so it could easily hold the 20 milliliters that they need to receive at birth. This one here is, oops, I dropped that, a 12 milliliter, so you would use something like this for like the Enforce to draw it up. The Enforce is actually given nasally, so what you do is basically it's administered like the nasal mist for the flu vaccine is. It's drawn up into the syringe and then they squirt it into the nose and inhale it that way. So, as you can see there on the syringes, I have a couple examples of needles. This one here, I believe, is either an 18, I believe this is an 18 gauge. Needle sizes are kind of reversed. A larger number indicates a smaller needle diameter, and a smaller number indicates a larger needle diameter. This one here, like I said, I believe is an 18 by 1. Nope, not 18 by 1, I lied. This, I believe, is a 16 by 1, so we'd use that on yearlings and similar sized animals. This one here is an 18 by 1, and this one is one that we use on smaller calves to give, since they're both 1 inch, we use those to give IM injections. And now that I was talking about needle size, it's a good time to talk about BQA. BQA stands for Beef Quality Assurance, which is basically standards of care that have been put in place by various livestock associations, the USDA, and farmers. They deal with other aspects of care besides vaccination, but in relation to vaccination, they talk about injection location, vaccines that are given IM, and other medications that need to be given IM or sub-Q should only be given in the neck. This ensures that the meat in the rest of the body is kept in good condition, since that is basically higher quality than what's in the neck. So you don't want to damage that. And then I talked about needle size. You should use the proper needle size for the job that you're doing. The smaller the dosage size, if it's 1 milliliter, you're going to want to use a smaller gauge needle, so the 18 inch. And then even if you're using or going to be administering a vaccine that's 1 milliliter into the muscle, you might even want to use a smaller size syringe. They come in, I believe, 3.5 milliliter syringes, and I believe there's also a 6. And then if you're going to be giving a larger one, such as, say, if the bovine equalizer was an IM, you would want to use a larger gauge needle, such as the 16 and the 35 milliliter syringe. Another thing that people are concerned about is drug residue in their meat. Since vaccines are an annual thing, there's really nothing to worry about there, but that applies more to medications that we use to treat animals, but it still does apply a little bit to vaccines. There's this wonderful thing called withdrawal times. So you will never ever eat a piece of meat that has drug residue in it. There's times listed on the instructions that tell you how long you have to wait before you can mark that animal. It can be anywhere from a couple days up to a couple months usually. So we do all this to ensure that our animals lead healthy lives free from disease and illness. So in conclusion, vaccines are the responsible and ethical thing to do to livestock in order to keep them healthy. And I hope now that you have an better understanding of vaccination programs in livestock, and I hope that you will tell people maybe who aren't educated about vaccinations in livestock as to why we do get vaccines. So thank you for your time.